Welcome out to It's All Been Done Radio Hour. This week, a new Meet the Cast episode. We're going to talk to Ashley Collins. But before we get to that, we want to thank Circle 270 Media, which this podcast is a part of. We also want to thank Red Herring Theater, our host site, where we perform on one Saturday a month. Right now, it's the last Saturday of every month for a while. So we'll be there on February 26th at 5 p.m. You'll also want to check out Red Herring's own works because they do a bunch of really cool, interesting shows with very talented performers. Go to redherring.info for more information. We want to thank our parent network, It's All Been Done Presents, with podcast, written work, video, and more, found at iabdpresents.com. You can support the network and us at patreon.com/iabd. Now enjoy this episode of Meet the Cast. Welcome out to a new Meet the Cast episode. I am here with one of our new troop members. Well, not new anymore, but
It's been a year.
Ashley Collins. Yes, it has been a year. Hi,
Yeah.
Ashley.
Hi.
We, of course, are going to talk about all of that stuff, but let's start with your background. What first interested you in theater performing?
I don't really remember. I know that I wanted to act back when I was a kid. My parents were not into this at all. They were just like, no, that's a waste of time. You'll never make money off that. You need to have hobbies that will, lead to something in life. And
now you showed them by making gobs of money.
Tons of money from It's All Been Done Radio Hour. That's right. I have had acting jobs that did pay, nothing that's going to pay my bills. It puts gas in my car so I can get to the theater. Sure. I mean, that's about it.
Oh, sure.
But I'm just technically I have been paid, so take that, Dad. My dad's actually reasonably supportive now. He's never seen a single thing that I've ever been in because when I started doing this, when I moved to Ohio, he was still in New Jersey at the time. He's in Maryland now, so he's never seen anything that I've done live. He might actually be a Patreon donor. I'm not sure. He might be. I know that he's donated to Little Theater Off Broadway, who I work with a lot, and Mad Lab. So he donates. So he's being supportive now, which is great.
So are you from New Jersey then?
I lived in New Jersey for 10 years, but I was actually born in Fort Worth, Texas.
How long did you live in Texas?
A year or something. Then I moved to Florida, and then I moved back to Texas, and then I left Texas when I was 3 or something, 3 or 4.
Okay.
I lived in New Jersey until I was 13, almost 14, and I moved out to Ohio, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, that's quite a bit of moving around.
Yeah.
So is it safe to assume you like Ohio?
No, it's too cold here.
Oh. But you're not seeking to leave at the moment? Okay.
No. Sam and I have talked about it, and we're just once the kids are out of high school and in college, maybe we'll move down south or something, because where it's warm.
Absolutely. Ohio, did you do plays and stuff in school growing up?
Not when I was a kid or anything. My very first show was in the Christmas show at church that they always do. I was the angel. Aww. And that was my big thing. That was my one thing that I did before I moved out here, and I started doing theater in high school. I didn't do musicals or anything because don't smoke, kids, but I was a smoker back in high school. I don't smoke now. I haven't smoked in 10, 15 years or something. But because of that, I'm just I'm a smoker. And I went to school with some extremely talented people, too. And I'm just I'm not going to get cast in anything next to them. And
any memorable roles that you enjoyed?
My favorite role that I did in high school was a comedy called The Nerd. And I
was in The Nerd.
Were you? I was Tansy.
Okay, I was the little brat, of course. I was a freshman.
Thor,
yes. No, that's awesome that you did The Nerd and played Tansy. That's a fun role.
It was one of my favorite roles ever. I always got so frustrated because our nerd who was in there, he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. His name is Sky, but he always jumped my one joke. Because Tansy was the straight man in the whole show, but she had one joke. And that was in the second act when they're naming all the monsters and everything that come out. And they're just oh yeah, and they're naming these realistic things. And then Tansy's and mastodons, which... I mean, it's just sometimes, but he always jumped, so I never got to say my mastodon's line.
That's
and
terrible.
One of the other girls, she played Axel. They made her Alex. She knew that was my favorite line, and then in the very last show, he jumped it again, as he always did. And she's well, you know what kind of monsters there are, right? So she helped me out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any other big roles as a young person that you...
I was in The Last Night of Ballyhoo, which is very popular among community theaters.
Okay.
But they don't really do it much anymore because I keep an eye out for it, and they did it maybe it was a theater, I don't remember which one, 5 or 6 years ago. I played Sunny in that, and she was the smart one. It was takes place in like Georgia or something, but it's like during World War II.
Okay.
And it's like this Jewish family like during World War II, but in America. And like the two cousins, there was the one that was obsessed with Gone with the Wind, and she wanted to get married and go to Ballyhoo, which is like their big party. And then she had like her really smart cousin, and the boy that the Gone with the Wind girl liked the cousin, and so there was some overlapping there, but so I was the cousin, the smart one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after high school, did you continue theater? Did
Not
you take
for a
break?
while, because
Yeah.
I didn't know about community theater. I didn't know like how to find it or where to go. Like I knew it was something that existed, but I'm just like, I don't know if we have it here, which is so funny now, because I'm just like, oh yeah, there's like over 30 theaters in
There are.
Columbus.
There's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know how I found Little Theater off Broadway in Grove City. Like I don't remember now. This was 2007, but I found them, and they were getting ready to do auditions for Fiddler on the Roof. And so I was like, well, I can't sing well. I'm like, which is funny because when I was in elementary school, I was in choir then, because my elementary school for a while was K through 8, and then it went K to 6, and so it was just 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And I was in like the advanced choir that got selected for like going to daycares and retirement homes, and like I was one of the featured soloists. But now here I am, like high school, early 20s. I'm just like, I can't sing. And so I did audition though, and I got ensemble, which is the best you can really ask for when it's your first show back in years,
Sure.
and you had no musicals on your resume.
And there's plenty for the ensemble to do
Oh
that
yeah.
show. Yeah.
I had a ton to do.
Yeah.
So it was, and so that got the ball rolling from there, and that's where I do most of my stuff still. Is
Little theater on Broadway. That's a nice little theater. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So, what hobbies do you have besides theater?
Well, I am the most boring person alive. And I tell people this, and they're all just like, oh, no. And I'm like, no. I'm like, that's something that I like about me. I like that I'm not very interesting. I'm like, theater is the most interesting thing about me. But I'm just like, when I'm not doing theater, I'm like, well, now I have school a lot, because I decided that was a great idea. I'm just like, oh, I'm in my 30s, and I have 2 children and a job. Let's go back to school.
Uh-huh.
Kids, go to school right after high school. That's the best time to do college, I'm telling you now. But when I'm not doing all that stuff, like the number one thing I do is cross stitch.
Well, that's interesting.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm sure there are plenty of our listening audience that would find it interesting.
Maybe, yeah. And then I can binge watch a show like no one else.
Can't we all?
Sam can't.
Oh, really?
He can only do like, at most, like it's a 30-minute show, so it's like 20 minutes on like Netflix or whatever. He can do maybe 3.
Really?
At the absolute most, 3 is that cutoff. He can't do anymore. If it's like the 45-minute shows that are supposed to be like an hour when they're on TV, he can do 1. Can't do any more of that. Yeah. Because he's not a TV movie guy at all.
Sam Clements, if you don't know, he did the last Meet the Cast, and I think he talked about you a bit. Do you want to give your side of the story?
Which story? I know I listened to this, but I don't remember it.
I don't either. That's why I was just tossing it to you.
It's probably how we met.
Probably.
All right, so...
oh, you're right. He did tell in detail how
we met, yes.
So yeah, if you want to give your rebuttal, now's your chance.
Okay, so this was 2017. We met at an audition. We never read together. Like when he was called up to read, he was with a different group, and then I went up to read, and I was with a different group or different people. We never read together. And now again, this was with Little Theater Off Broadway, so like I've been there for a while, and like I kind of can pick out. I'm just like, who's probably gonna get in the cast, and who maybe should try again with a different show. Like not necessarily that like they're bad, just like this isn't your genre, but like because like this one was a comedy, and some people don't have that natural comic timing. I'm just like, I can see that you're talented, but maybe not this one. I can't think of anyone who was at that audition who I was thinking that about, but I do remember seeing Sam up there, and I had no idea who he was. But I'm just like, this guy's gonna get something. I don't know which role they're gonna put him in, but he's gonna be in this show. And this sounds super conceited, but I'm like, I knew I was gonna be in the show. Not because I was the most talented person there, but there was the one role that I wanted, which is the role I got. There's a comment in there from one of the guys who's like, oh, well, she's 6 feet shorter than I am, or 6 feet. She's a foot shorter than I am. And I was the shortest girl who auditioned. All the other girls were about the same height as the guys. So I'm like, either we're gonna have to completely cut or change that line, which the rights holders don't like it when you do that.
Sure.
Or or they had to pick me. So Sam and I were cast as the engaged couple of the show. And at that time, I had a boyfriend, and so like I wasn't looking for anyone or anything, but we did spend a lot of time together, and we clicked very well. And so there was no overlap. I want that on the record. There was no overlap. I did break up with my boyfriend. He and I had been together for a little over a year, but he was not as committed to things as I was. Like, he had some issues with the fact that I had kids. Like, not that he didn't like kids or anything, just like, I don't know if I want to be in a serious relationship with someone who has children, which is totally fair. But so I did break up with him, and then, a week later, I went on my first date with Sam.
Sam described himself as a homewrecker, I believe.
Oh yeah, I make that joke all the time. I'm just like, I was dating a doctor, because he was a doctor. He wasn't like a medical doctor, but he was a science doctor. Like, he does genetic research.
Okay.
So, and I was still legally married at the time too.
Yes.
So, but my ex-husband and I had been separated at that point for 2 years.
Okay.
So we weren't divorced yet. We didn't get divorced till 2 years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Long separation.
Yeah. Oh, we still lived under the same roof and everything too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Me and my ex-husband and our kids, we all lived in the same house. And then after Sam and I had been dating for a little over a year, Sam moved in with us. So all 5 of us.
I feel like there's a sitcom there.
That's what I said too.
Right.
Then what happened was there was that show with Oliver Hudson and Jenna Fisher called Splitting Up Together.
Yes.
And I was just like, someone's making money off my life. And I got really mad about it, but then like I got mad at the show because they're just like, they kept trying to push them back together. And I'm just like, no. I'm like, the whole point is that you can be separated and still live together and get along. And so
you can, but I did root for them to get back together on that show.
I stopped watching after a while.
Yeah, I didn't finish it all the way through, but I don't know if I got behind and never caught up, or if they changed the day that it was on and I just couldn't remember when it was, but I did give up on it eventually, and that was fine. Like, they were cute, but I'm just like, but you can stay friends with your ex, which in my case was a lot easier though, because my ex-husband is a bisexual transgender woman now. Right.
So.
Didn't mean to get so into your personal life.
No, that's fine. I tell people that a lot.
Yeah. I thought you were pretty open about it.
I am, and just like, I don't want to share all of her business because I'm like, that's her concern. That's why I'm not using names or anything.
Yes.
Because it's her life, and I'm just like, I'm telling like what part of it affects me. Right. But
yeah, so you and Sam went on a date, and then that was how many years ago?
Almost 5.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be 5 in April.
Okay. And as we're recording this, you are engaged.
We are, yes.
And presumably getting married.
Yes, next October.
Cool. So let's talk about your IABD experience. How did you first find out about IABD?
I knew Colleen Dunn, who I think she was our original Z, I think.
Yes.
I've known her for years. She moved here from, I want to say, Tennessee, and she directed a show that I was in. Like, she moved out here and she saw this call for a director. It had already been cast and everything. Something happened and our director dropped out. And so she came over and she took over for that. But she went and auditioned for a show at Mad Lab. And so she got cast in that. And then after that, she kind of kept in contact with a lot of people from the cast, and she's like, come do stuff at Mad Lab. And I never did. I'm just like, oh, I will. And then I never did. But then they were having auditions for young writers one summer. And I had just done 2 shows. This was a show where Sam and I met, and then I did the Scarlet Pimpernel immediately afterward. And I'm just like, I need a break. But I'm like, Sam, you just started. Because that was his first show ever. He had never done a show before. And he went to that one audition where we met and got one of the leads. Because Sam is crazy talented and it's annoying. But I was just like, well, you need more stuff on your resume. So I'm like, why don't you go to this audition? And so he went and he got cast in like 3 shows because it's Sam. And so then, and he had such a great time there. I was like, okay, I'm like, well, maybe I'll go audition for something as well. And the next thing that I auditioned for, I didn't get, but that was fine. Like, I went and saw the show later. I think this was Kitej. I was like, oh no, like you all should shoot.
Kitej was a great cast.
Oh my gosh, Kitej was amazing. And I'm just like, this is the people they should have chosen. I'm cool with this. But it was still a great show. But then I auditioned for Roulette the following, not summer, but the audition,
spring,
whatever it was, and I got that. And so then from there, I saw like postings for It's All Been Done, and I never considered myself a voice actor, And I never even thought about it, but Sam had always said that like that was his main interest, was voice acting.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, well, why don't you go do this? And he was just like, oh, I don't know, because he gets very nervous. Like, you wouldn't know it, but he does. He gets very nervous.
Aww.
And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, I'll do it too. I'm like, we'll both audition. I'm just like, he'll get something because it's Sam. I'm just like, I won't get anything, and that'll be fine. Because again, this is his thing. I'm like, I'm just going along as the supportive girlfriend. And then we both auditioned, and he got the Wolfman in Mystery to the Team, and he was so upset about the chicken.
Yes. He talked about that on his podcast.
I think he did too. He practiced that chicken noise so much, and like I'm down in the basement with him, and while he's like trying out different chickens, I'm just like, no, go with this one. And then I auditioned for Luna, and I was just like, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, it says like possibly reoccurring, so I'm like, okay. That's fine. I'm like, that would be fun. And I read it like 3 different ways, and it's so funny now looking back on it because the one that I went with that you told me to use was like where she was being like, it was like sassy Luna. And then after that, whenever, because then we both got these parts, and then whenever I'm like at home, like looking over the lines and like reading them out loud to Sam, he's just like, don't forget, you're supposed to be sassy. And so I'm like, oh yeah. So I completely changed how I was saying lines. So if you actually go back and listen to the first few episodes that I was in,
Sassier.
Luna is a lot snottier than she is now.
She didn't know him yet.
No,
she was still that outsider.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't know. Now she's just me. Except she's a lot smarter than I am. Like, I don't understand half my lines, so I was like,
neither do I, and I write them. So.
See, well, there you go. It's fine.
No, so yeah, you've got to play Luna quite a few times, and you've auditioned for other roles as well. What made you want to keep coming back to the show?
It was so much fun, and just like, and everyone is so great, and like, oh my god, the talent here is insane. And like, I was talking to someone, I don't remember if it was Sam or someone else. I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, if you were to like rank the talent of all these people, I'm like, I'm at the bottom there, and that's not like, that's not saying like, oh, I'm really bad or anything. It's just like, that's just how good everyone else here is. They're so good, they're so talented. I'm just sitting there, just like, I don't belong here.
Well, you got to remember too, and I'm not going to call out names or anything, but they weren't all that talented at the beginning.
They get there.
They get there. And so they've been doing it for years.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, I'll get there, I'm sure. But I'm just like,
I have no doubt. No, I have no doubt because I think you are talented.
Thank you. I appreciate
you want to be in the cast if
right. So
But so the Noobs came about right as you were joining the troupe. Was that something you wanted while you were guest starring to join the troupe full time, or was that?
I didn't really think about it because like when I got Luna the first time, I was like, oh, like possible reoccurring. I'll do 1, maybe 2 episodes. I'm like, and then that'll be it. But then you're just like, hey, are you available? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm available. And like the more episodes I had with her, I'm just like, I love her. And even now, like, I'm extremely protective of her. I'm just like, why? What are we doing? What's happening? Is she dying? She better not be dying. And just, no, I know. But the fact that like you were able to keep coming up with reasons for her to be there, I'm just like, yeah, I'll come back. I'll play Luna some more. And then when you reached out about Troop, I'm just like, okay, I have to do more stuff. Oh crap, I have to figure out if I can do voices. Like I can do accents, sort of. But we figured it out, and it was fine. And here I am.
Yeah, you hadn't played a lot of parts when we offered, but and it wasn't just a straight offer. I think I asked you to send me some other samples, and then I listened to the package you sent me, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's got range that we haven't seen yet. We can play. We can use this actress. So I was very excited that you accepted. So
I was very excited that you asked.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was so funny too because like you asked me first, but then Sam got in first, and I'm just like, this is how it goes, Sam.
Because we weren't looking at men. We weren't looking at men because that's something we've struggled with from the beginning. Is I know most theater around here anyway gets a lot more female auditioners than male, but for some reason this show has attracted more men than women. And so from the beginning, we were like, we need to bring in more females, and we want diversity as well. Yeah. We don't have as much we do have gender diversity now. We don't have as much ethnic diversity as I would like. So I hope to keep bringing in actor performers.
Me too.
And so besides the acting, you've done just a tiny bit of writing for us, but you also joined the show improvement committee to get involved in like the running of the program and development.
I don't think I've really contributed much to that. I'm just kind of there.
That's okay. I mean, you are still new. I mean, a year in this troupe isn't that much.
Right.
So it'll,
I talk once in a while, and I'll throw out a suggestion here and there, or I'll ask a question, and things go from there.
Is there anything you've wanted to do with the show that you haven't gotten to do yet?
I think I've been in everything except for Life with a Voice Actor. I think it's the only one I haven't been in.
I've only done a few episodes of that.
Right, so I'm like, that's understandable.
You played that pivotal role in Daniel Kravitz.
I did. Daniel Kravitz is my favorite besides Universe Journey, because
really?
Universe Journey is everyone's favorite.
It is.
But besides that, I'm like, Daniel Kravitz is my favorite. And so I'm like, and I know that like we're coming up on ending it, and I'm just like, I need to get in this.
There are a couple of big female characters that have yet to be cast that will figure prominently.
Oh, and then you will be getting auditions from me for those.
Good.
Because I'm like, I really want to do Daniel Kravitz.
Yeah, we're adding another female lead that we haven't met yet.
Ooh,
so for season volume 4.
All right, I'm all over that. Or I will be.
With a British accent.
I've been dying to use my British accent. You know who actually has a pretty decent British accent is my son.
How did Harrison get involved in the show?
He had told me that Harrison is my son. He is, at this time, he is 9 years old. But he had told me that he was a little interested in doing theater because he knows that Sam and I do this. And I'm just like, and he's done some shows at his church as well. Like the church did like a crossover show between Christmas Carol and like the story of Jesus and everything, and Harrison played Tiny Tim.
Aww.
Yeah, he was very cute, and he had a solo. He got to sing an entire song in front of the entire church. So like, I knew he didn't have that stage fright that my daughter has. She says she wants to do the show too, especially now that Harrison's done it several times. She's like, I want to do it. I'm just like, every time I mention to you, you scream stage fright and run out of the room. But so I knew Harrison wasn't going to have that issue. So when he mentioned it, she's like, well, I want to do some theater. Everything was still shut down for COVID. So I mentioned it to you. I'm just like, hey, just FYI, if you ever need a 9-year-old boy, I've got one. And I wasn't expecting anything to come of that because I'm just like, with this type of show. But then you emailed me, you're just like, all right, I have the script. It's a little weird. I don't know if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
But
it was very questionable content-wise.
It was. So then, like, I read it, and I gave it to Sam, and I had him read it, and I sent it to Harrison's dad, and I had her read it. I'm like, I'm okay with it. If you guys are okay with it, I'm like, we'll let him do it. And they both are just like, yeah, that's fine.
God, I feel bad just in general because you said, here, I've got a little boy that wants to be in the show. Not little, 9-year-old's not little, but, you know, a boy that wants to be in the show. And immediately I'm like, okay, I'll write this. It's all been theater with, you know, some
No, it wasn't It's All Been Theater.
No, it was Travels with Tim. I was like, I'll write a Travels with Tim that has a kid in it. And then as I'm writing the script, not knowing what I was going to find funny in this script, the incest really started to hit, and it hit hard. And then I just leaned into it because that's the angle I was amused.
Like, might as well go.
But that wasn't the intention when I was writing a script for him. And then I finished the script. I'm like, oh God, now I sent it to his mom to look at. Oh. And then completely accidentally, coincidentally, that Universe Journey. Where, because I know you had said what he really wanted to play was a villain in the Universe Journey.
He did, yes.
An Echo Dimension villain. So he got to. Again, I'm trying to serve my main characters, and I just felt like in this scene it needed to be the sexual relationships of these characters needed to be addressed.
Right.
Did not try to keep him basically out of it, but he's there, and then you filling in as Tokolati that month because Katie missed, and she on the podcast it'll be Katie, but for the live
person making sexual comments about my 9-year-old son is me.
I know, and I did not know until we did the table read, and then I was like, crap.
And I knew because like I'm such a stalker of our show. Like I'm on our Wikipedia all the time. I'm on the Trello all the time. Like I'm on our It's All Been Done IMDb page. Like I'm such a stalker. And I listen to the podcast. Like I'm a fan of the show too.
Good.
So like, yeah, I'm just kind of crazy. But like, so I had already read the script in advance, so I knew it was coming. But at the same time, like at the time that I read it, I didn't know that I was going to be filling in for Katie.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, like that's kind of gross, but oh well. And I was like, okay, can you fill in for Katie? I was like, yeah, sure, okay. But Harrison he's a young 9. He doesn't get it. Yeah. Like even after we did the Travels with Tim, this is somewhat spoilery, but not really. We can cut this if we need to. At the very end, like after we did the show and everything, and you know we logged off, and I was like, "Good job, buddy." He's like, "I have a question," and I was just like, "Oh God, here we go." And I was like, "All right, what's your question, buddy?" And he's like, "Why can't you marry your sister?" And I'm like,
those may have been the dirtiest scripts all year, and he was in both of them.
he just happened to be there, yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, but like I said, he's a young 9. He doesn't get it. So I'm just like, we'll just let that train go as long as possible until I actually do have to explain things to him.
Well, no, I'm glad he's done the show, and it's nice to have a show like this where you can work anybody in some way. Yeah. Like I always say, anybody can play a part in the show. How much they're in the show varies, but yeah. So, and if your daughter wants to do it, we'll find a way to work her in.
She did cheer camp back in September, and so then she went to the high school football game and she cheered with the cheerleaders. And then after that, she was like, I'm a cheerleader now, Mama. I don't have stage fright anymore. And I'm like, we'll see. Like, I'm not holding on to that yet, but
sure.
But she has asked every time Harrison's come with us to do a show, she's like, can I come see it? And I'm just like, nope. I'm like, we're already pushing to have Harrison here with
she's
these lines.
Young.
I'm like, she's 7.
Yeah.
And again, like, she doesn't get it either.
Sure.
But I feel like she's more likely to ask me questions.
Yeah. My daughter was in the show as a baby, and she has asked to be in the show again, and I keep telling her when she learns to read. Yeah. But I probably will have to be careful on the content.
Yep.
So we're not going to turn into a G-rated show if you're a fan, but we maybe, if we have more kids involved more often.
We'll bring Zoe and Jen into the same episode.
Yeah, we'll be more conscious of what we do.
And then it'll just be like a one thing, so that way we don't have to like lower the rating of the entire show. It'll just be one segment.
Yeah. Well, Zoe was in a month that had Porn Star Detectives, and
of course,
she was not in the theater while we did Porn Star Detectives because she was a baby. She wasn't even a year old. Yeah. But my father-in-law got real furious about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, real furious. Oh. Because we had advertised that month that Porn Star Detectives were in it. That was like the segment we were pushing. And he's like, and Zoe's in the show? This is,
It's like, not this exact one.
Well, he's also a jerk. So. No,
cut that.
No, we don't need to. He won't listen. Are there any other parts that you've played that you really like besides Luna, Leah, Ashley?
No, Luna is my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
Playing Ashley and Noobs is great as well.
What about Luna really appeals to you?
I love how smart and independent she is, which is the exact opposite of me. I am very dependent on people. I'm not very dependent, but you know, like she's her own person. She is, like I said, she's very smart. She is very strong. She is very capable, and these are all things I instill in my daughter, like of who she can be. And I think that she's just this. She's someone, like if she were on like a TV show or something that like my kids could watch, I'd be telling my daughter, like, this is who you need to look up to. And so she, I just love her so much.
Well, that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've loved your performance of her, and
thank you.
She's fun to bring back. I feel like we've gotten to do a few things with her, and promoting her last year, which you haven't seen yet, was fun.
Yeah.
And the way we went about that, because you know, not everybody's going to be the captain of a starship. That's just not everybody's career trajectory.
Yep.
And that doesn't need to be everybody's career trajectory.
No, and that's not her. She doesn't want to run a ship or anything. But
she can run other things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she can be in charge, and she can handle the responsibility.
She'll get stuff done.
Yeah, and she can lead a team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
It's not. It's just what she wants to do, isn't running a starship.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the best.
She's best. Yeah. And her romance, we should address, her romance with Foley was starting to be written before we knew Seamus was leaving the show and Sam was taking over.
I just listened to that episode too, like when it like really started, and it was still Seamus.
Yeah.
And I just got all sad though and everything too, because like it's at the very end. It was Seamus's last show, and he sings "When I'm Gone" to her, and I'm just like, I remember doing the show live, and I'm sitting there going, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry," because I knew it was Seamus's last show, and I knew Sam was taking over. I'm just like, I already know I have chemistry with Sam. I'm like, I'm gonna do Seamus.
He didn't give us a lot of notice in that. When I'm Gone was like the first thing I wrote for him after I knew he was leaving, and that was just, oh God. I still talk to him on a weekly basis. He's my buddy, and I miss him.
But I do wish that I could have gotten more Foley Luna time when it was still Seamus.
When it was still Seamus, yeah. And you've gotten some romance time with Keith in Morning Show.
I did, and that one took me by surprise.
Me too.
It's like, I'm loving Gus and Shelley, but like from the beginning, I was Team Pat and Shelley.
Yes.
Which I think we're supposed to be.
Yes.
But then all that happened, I'm just like, oh, Gus and Shelley are cute.
And yeah, we're not going to get into season 2 much here because it hasn't aired yet. But the end of season 1, no, we can leave it in because the end of season 1 was Gus and Shelley's hookup.
Oh,
and
I don't keep it. Was that?
That was December. Yes, that was Leah's first episode, and and when we wrote that episode, it was very much a let's hook up Gus and Shelley as a speed bump to getting her with Pat, and then. I mean, you've heard the episode. It's fantastic, their chemistry. And all of a sudden, Kristen, who's involved in story planning a lot, is coming to me saying, no, you need to change this. This isn't about Pat anymore. This is Gus and Shelley. Yeah. And I said, we need to explore this. We need to explore it in a way that's authentic to the characters, which means they're not in a relationship at this point. But also, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm so torn on this because I was like, I love Gus and Shelley, but from the beginning, like I said, I've been team Pat and Shelley, so I don't know where I stand with all this.
You listen to old episodes, apparently?
Yeah, not the super old ones, for the original, because there's cast members that were in from the beginning that are not in it now, and I'll listen to them I don't know who that is. I don't know this voice. I don't know this character. Am I supposed to know who this is? So I just skip ahead a couple of years. Okay. So I think it's around 2018 is probably when I started listening to it, those years, because that's when we started, when Sam and I started.
Gotcha. So you haven't gone back to the beginning then?
Not the beginning, but enough things have been referenced between story planning or just regular conversations that we've had, so I know a lot of things, but I'm just if I were to listen, I'm just I don't know who that is.
And you said you're going to school. What are you going to school for?
Right now I'm just at the community college because I'm in my 30s and I don't have time to go to real school. Sorry, real school.
The community college is real school.
I know, people tell me that all the time, but when I was in high school, the community college was always referred to as 13th grade. Yeah. So
I think community colleges' reputations have gone up a lot.
That's good.
They have a lot more value than they used to.
I have not been in high school for many years, so I don't know what the reputation is now, but I decided last fall, I'm just I can't say I go back, because I did go a little bit after high school, but not really, because at that time, I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life or anything, and even now, I'm just I don't know, I got nothing. But I'm just you know what, I like my job that I have, and I'm this is not where I want to be forever. I'm I don't know what I want to do. I'm it's not this. Yeah. And I like my job, though, for the record. My boss listens sometimes.
Oh, nice. Hi, Ashley's boss. Thank you for letting us borrow her.
It's Marie.
Yes.
But, so I'm just well, maybe I should take some classes and go to school and see what happens there. And so I went back and I'm just doing 3 classes at a time, and both semesters, I took this semester off because Sam and I were on vacation for a while with the family, and I'm just I don't want to take my laptop with me, and I don't want to have to worry about papers or anything. So I took this semester off. So I did spring and summer last year, did really well, and I am going back again in January. And so for right now, I'm just studying English, just because that's a pretty basic thing, and I'm and then even if I just stop with my associates in English, that's still going to open doors for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But ideally, assuming I'm not completely burnt out by the time I graduate, I'm I would like to transfer over to OSU or someplace else, and then get my bachelor's in creative writing.
Nice.
Which works well for this show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can write for the show. Yeah. Absolutely. I love when people write for the show.
Because then you don't have to.
So that makes it sound like I don't like writing for. I love writing for the show. I really do. But doing 80 pages a month is a lot. And I have young kids. And a full-time job.
I don't have a full-time job. I've got a part-time job.
Yeah. So, you going to stay with us for a while?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
You're going to have to fire me if you want to get rid of me.
Okay. So, don't check your emails after the show. No, I'm kidding. No, please. What? No, please stay in the show. And thank you for sitting down. And hopefully people will enjoy continuing to listen to you.
I hope so.
Please do. Listen to Ashley. Send her fan letters.
Please. I'd love that. I'll write back, too.
Right now, we don't have an IABD address set up for, but you can send any fan letters to jim@iabdpresents.com. I'll pass it on to the appropriate cast member.
Yes, do that.
Yeah. So have a good week.
Bye.
It's All Been Done Radio Hour number 339. Meet the cast number 38. Ashley Collins. Starred Ashley Collins and Jerome Wetzel, just talking. No director, no writer, off-the-cuff conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. For the show, our technical director is Shane Stefanchik, music director Kristen Green, theme song composer Nathan Haley, podcast editor Chris Allen. I hope you have a wonderful week. It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?